Welcome back to the Frederick Family Acre. My name's Katrina.
My name's George.
And today we are going to do a garden tour. We have a lot of new faces here since the last time we did one of these. And what we're gonna do is walk around and show you everything we have going on in our garden. And we will still have one of our educational videos coming out later this week, but not tomorrow, because if you are watching this the day it comes out, it is July 3rd, and here in the US, tomorrow is the 4th of July.
Let's go ahead and get into the garden tour.
First, we're gonna take a look at our 5 raised beds. In this first bed, we have multiple varieties of tomatoes, and I'm not gonna get into varieties today. We're gonna wait to do that until these are really fruiting so you can see the difference. The one difference I do wanna note is we have one indeterminate tomato in here, which means that this tomato only gets to a certain height and puts out all of its fruit at once. And the rest are indeterminate, which means it will keep growing and producing fruit until your first frost. So very excited to show you guys a side-by-side example of this. I also wanted to note that this tomato has some sun scald on it, and that is because we were not patient when hardening it off and bringing it outside. We put it in the direct light too soon. We thought it wasn't gonna make it, but the new leaves look really good and plants really wanna grow, and it's very hard to kill them. So if your plants look a little rough, just keep giving them love and they'll probably perk back up for you. We also have some sweet alyssum, a French mini melon, and this will grow all the way up our trellis, one little sunflower and some calendula coming in. And last but not least in this bed, we have some tiny little basil. We've really been struggling to get this going this year, so I actually just bought some starts to put out, because sometimes it's okay to buy starts if things aren't working from seed. In this next bed, we have a whole bunch of tomatillos. We have 2 varieties in here, purple and green. We love making salsa with tomatillos and are very excited for these to be coming on. We also have a couple carrots here, and these actually aren't for eating. We are leaving these in to go to seed. We actually can't grow carrots in the summer here in our zone in 10A in San Diego. We also have oregano, more sweet alyssum, more French mini melons, and right here we have some purple pole beans, and you can see these have been getting burnt by the hot sun. So they're actually gonna come out, and at the base here, I planted some, which ones are these? Some Kajari melons, and we're gonna cut these out and start trellising this up and over. I just have a couple beans on here I'm trying to let dry up to go to seed and save seeds. In our third bed, we have this big, beautiful carpet of thyme coming in. And this is a great example of what our goal is for the end of every bed, is I'm trying to get a really good established herb to help with biodiversity and repel pests. This bed again has a lot more tomatoes. We have a kiku melon here, more carrots we're letting go to seed, and you can see some sad holdover basil. This is actually 3 years old, so we're gonna cut that out and put some new in. In this bed, we have our Goliath of an eggplant. And this plant is actually in its 3rd summer. Eggplants can be overwintered like peppers with the same care, which we didn't know. We actually overwintered this. And this plant is loaded. And I just took in, I think 15 eggplants yesterday that were maybe twice the size of this one. So very good producer for us. But not all plants are created equal. This guy is a little holdover too. You can see it's much more scrawny, but still putting some fruits. So we're gonna leave it for now. In the back end of this bed, we have several varieties of peppers, more sweet alyssum, and more varieties of mini melons that are gonna grow up. And this right here is a marigold. I just put seeds in a few days ago, and they're starting to pop up to get more flowers to help bring pollinators into this garden bed. Now, in our last raised bed, we have our most mature tomatoes, and you can see we actually have fruits starting to ripen on these. We've been enjoying a few of these little sun golds. These are starting to turn color as well, and I don't remember what variety this is. The white spots on this are actually from milk I've been spraying on here to fight off some powdery mildew, and it's worked really well. I've been really pleased with that. And this is a Kellogg's breakfast. On the front, we have 3 more tomatoes, 2 more basils that are pretty old, because here this doesn't die back. We don't get a hard frost, so we can grow basil all year, but it does get woody and slow down. So we need to get a new one in. And in the front, we have some sage. This is just a normal sage. I don't even remember the variety. And on the back side, we have a very beautiful variegated sage. And since this one back here is taking over, I'm gonna be clipping it back and giving some to our chickens, as well as putting some in our dehydrator to make powdered sage for use in the kitchen. And now George is going to talk to you guys about our containers that we have in here as well.
So these are the containers that we have going on this side. These are determinate San Marzano tomatoes, and the goal behind these is just to can tomatoes and tomato sauce and tomato paste. So we actually started 28, I think, of these that we have going, and these are the ones that we have set up in the pots that we didn't have room for in beds and out in this new area that we'll show you guys here in a little bit. So these are in tiny pots. That's okay. They're determinate. They're not going to get a whole lot bigger than this, and they're about to start producing fruit. You can see some of them are already getting fruits right here. Other ones are getting flowers like this, and we're coming out here and making sure to give these a shake so we can get as many pollinated as possible. And right here we have some more overwintered peppers from last year. Not going to get into varieties, but you can see kind of what's going on. These are new for this year, and we have a ton of new ones, still 26 I think to go in the ground, and more again out in this other bed. But these are off to a great start, and we're already getting tons of fruit. Look at these Thai hots, are just going out of control. And we love these things. If you haven't grown a Thai hot, you should. They're very easy to grow. They seem like they're impossible to kill, and they make tons of fruit. Probably one of the best tasting peppers I think that we grow. So another great example of how plants really just want to grow is this, I believe it's a Carolina Reaper here, was eaten by a rabbit. And you can see that it took the entire stalk right off, chewed it right down to nothing, and this thing is got new growth, and we're gonna let it try and come back and see what happens. You can see there's fresh growth right here, green growth. We've been watering it, and I think it's gonna make a comeback and hopefully have some time to give us at least 1 or 2 fruits this year, and we'll be able to overwinter it and have it for next year. So these are the peppers that we overwintered. Overwintering means that we cut them back heavily all the way back to the stalk, and didn't water them a whole ton and let them sleep through the winter, and then in the spring we start watering them, amend the soil, and allow them to grow again. Some of them are getting fruit, some of them aren't, but they're off to a great start. This table is the last of our seedlings, aside from my peppers, which are out on their own table. Some of these have been in here way too long, but we're working on getting them out in the garden. You can see we've got melons, herbs, more peppers, more tomatoes, sunflowers, all sorts of stuff going on. We're hoping to get all of this stuff in the next week or so and off on its way. Once these seedlings are all planted, we'll actually be starting more seeds for our fall garden, which we will go over with you guys at a later time. But you should be planting seeds basically year round, especially if you live somewhere like us where you can grow year round. It's very important to keep that food cycle going.
Continuing with the theme of struggling with a lot of things getting eaten this year, we have some beans here that have been eaten down, but they are coming back, and you will see we do have traps that we set because we have a lot of mice and rats that are just local and native in our area, and it is a part of gardening here to just try and keep those pests down. But we have more beans coming in now, which is why I am going to be able to cut out the bean plant that we showed you earlier. Here we have cucumbers. This variety is Silver Slicer, and it is our first year growing it, and we are finally starting to get some little fruits. We actually had these eaten down twice. Here we have more beans. These are just a normal green bean, and I'm really excited we have so many coming in at once, because one plant isn't enough to do dinner for our family, so those have just been snacks in the garden for everyone for the last several months. In this bed, we also have more sweet alyssum and some strawberries that are coming on. We just put these out a few weeks ago, so hopefully we'll be getting fruit soon. And this is a calendula that is here just to encourage pollinators to come into the garden. So you'll notice that we have a lot of flowers in all of our beds, and that is just to really encourage the bees to come by all of our plants. Right here we have the sad tale of the bunny rabbits. Again, this is an Armenian yard-long cucumber. It has been eaten down 3 times, but it's still going, so we're leaving it. This was a pickling cucumber and it's gonna die. I've given up on it. I think we've had some roly-polies in here eating through the stem, so I'm gonna toss more seeds in here so I can get enough cucumbers to make pickles. And this little guy right here is a cucamelon, and one plant makes a lot, and if you have not tried these, they are such a fun addition to the garden. We'll put a picture here so you can see it, but it looks like a tiny little watermelon, but it is a cucumber. They taste so good. We make fridge pickles with them, and the kids love them too. And finally down here on the end, we have more beans. These, I believe, are a yellow bean, and they're coming in too, so we'll be able to get a lot of beans coming up in the kitchen soon. And you can see these yellow leaves. I actually think I've been over watering this bed, so I've scaled back on that some, and I think that should go away. We also have a little bit of purple opal basil and a sunflower that hopefully will be opening up soon. So right here we have our first wave of corn, and this was a dwarf variety. It did get a little stunted because we didn't get it out soon enough. This is a volunteer pumpkin, and it's looking really sad. I'm gonna be ripping it out after harvesting these off, but it popped up on its own, so I just left it. We have another little sunflower here, lots of sunflowers back here. Here we have a zucchini, and we actually had a second one here, and in this bed we have been dealing with gophers, which if you saw our video about harvesting our onions, you know we've been dealing with this for a while, and this gopher keeps outsmarting us, but we're gonna get him. All right, right here is a volunteer tomato. This is an example of an indeterminate that is not pruned, and we'll show you guys this throughout the gardening season. It will get huge and massive. We had one here last year, and this variety is a Chadwick cherry.
And we will let this thing go crazy, because the one we let go crazy last year was here, and it got like from way up there all the way to down here and side to side, and it gave us buckets and bowls of tomatoes.
Yeah, it's really fun to let them go a little wild, and unfortunately we don't have space to allow all of them to do that, and to encourage airflow, we prune the rest down to 1. This right here is a rosemary that we are letting get established right here. And then you can see we have another wave of corn in here. The germination originally was really good, but we've had some birds sharing with us, so I'll probably try and carefully spread some of these out. And then we have this space right here where next week I'm gonna do a last planting of corn, so that they are not all tasseling at the same time, because if they all tassel at the same time, they'll cross-pollinate, and corn is a plant where you'll see that in the first generation fruit if the cross-pollination happens. We also have a few more varieties of squash coming in. I'm really impressed with these guys because they looked awful. They were yellow and had 2 little leaves when I put them in here a few weeks ago, but they're bouncing back, and it looks like this guy's the strongest, so I'll be cutting that one off. And that is it for this part of our garden. And now we are going to move to the expanded part of our garden where we don't have a fence yet, but we've put in a lot of food and we are really excited about everything that this new space we're working on is gonna provide for our family.
So this is the new space of our garden that we've been working on. We are growing winter squash, fall squash, more melons, tomatoes, and peppers. We are really trying to get as much as we can, either grown and eaten or preserved and then eaten later. So we've added this whole new area with, I don't know, something like 60 new plants that we have going. It's working out really well. We did an in-ground bed with this. We just put some old pieces of wood along the edges and filled the dirt about 4 to 6 inches with new soil and planted things in it. You can see some of these are looking pretty rough. We've had some issues with the dogs running through here. These red cups on the side are actually rags filled with apple cider vinegar to try and keep rabbits and other pests out of here. And yeah, but it's doing really well considering we just put it in last week actually, and the plants seem to be adapting really nicely. Middle is almost all peppers. The side closest to us is all tomatoes, and then the outside away from us is all squash and melons.
And here you see more of our bunny friends, but new leaves. So don't rip your plants out when they get eaten.
It takes a lot to get rid of your plants. So this here is actually a new little raised bed that we built. Shameless plug, we're having a video coming out in the next couple days about how to use Oyas, which are these awesome old school watering pots that Grow Oya happens to make, and we love them. And yeah, we want to show everyone how to use them because they save a ton of water and they actually properly hydrate your plants very well. This is a bed of fire though, all peppers, hottest peppers in the world, and then the not hottest peppers in the world. So we have bell peppers, primatalis, ghosts, scorpions, and some other really cool things. This beautiful variegated plant right here will be very pretty. It's called a Chiro Roja, and it is a relative to a habanero. Over here, we actually have melons. We have watermelons here and Tennessee old-fashioned cantaloupes on that side. And now we're going to go out front to a new garden area that we are working on. We'll take you out there. So we are now out in the front, and this is a small space that we are extremely excited about.
This area in front of our house, we are starting a garden 100% from scratch and taking you guys along with us. So that if you are looking to start a garden, you can have a very detailed start to finish tutorial available for you. In this garden, we are just having raised beds, grow bags, and some various vertical gardening systems. It is all soil-based, so be sure that you subscribe if you want to see that content. And if you have not seen our first video in this series, we'll put it up here for you, but it's everything to consider before you start a new garden.
Be sure to keep an eye out because we'll be releasing those here in the next month or so, and we're going to do an entire series in close succession releases, video every day, every couple days, something like that, but we'll release the entire thing in one big batch so you can catch it all in one go. We want to thank you guys for coming along for our garden tour today. We know that your time is valuable, and we love that you chose to spend it here with us.
And we will see you back here on the next video.